But let's pivot gears here. Let's switch it up. Let's talk about some NFL football.
Let's take a look at the Colts and how they did over the weekend. I was in attendance at the game. It was such a fun game, too. However, things didn't quite end the way the Colts fans were hoping here. We'll take a look. It's kind of a slow start. The highlights start in the fourth quarter after the Colts finally took that lead. It was 73 going into halftime. Colts made it 9-7 going in the early that fourth quarter. We see McLaughlin with that field goal. And then here's Heineke. How about this? He's back. It's Darius Leonard. Shaq Leonard, that is. He is back, and he's making interceptions, and it's good to see him back on the field here for Indianapolis. It was a big interception that gave the Colts a lot of momentum. Here's their chance to capitalize on that momentum. It's Nyheim Hines, who had a great just waltz right into the corner of the end zone. Untouched. Hines with a pretty good day for the Colts. And then on the other side of things, here's a nice field goal here for Joey Slice. He hits that one and brings it within one score. They get the ball back, 40 seconds left. We see here the homecoming for Terry McLaurin, and he's streaking down the field all the time in the world, and he makes a wonderful catch right at the goal line. He's at the 1-inch line. Terry McLaurin, of course, a former Cathedral High School football player and then went to play for Ohio State, but he had himself a great catch there and set up the Taylor Heineke quarterback sneak right here with just 26 seconds up on the clock. He got in with no issues. And that left 22 seconds or so inside of 25 to go for the Colts to try to put a drive together. From there, they just kind of tossed it out to Michael Pittman a couple times. Couldn't do much, and the final score ended 17-16. We see the last-ditch attempt here as Ehlinger just kind of struggled. Tossed it over to Pittman, but there's nothing he could have done at that point. And that was right after Pittman had dropped an open ball that would have got him near midfield, stepped out of bounds. It would have been great if he just dropped it right off his hands. So it was really tough for Michael Pittman at the end of that game. It would have taken a miracle to still get the field goal range, but he definitely blew that chance on the first play.
I mean, it probably would have taken a couple miracles for the Colts to turn around and win that one, but
it sucks because they had so much control in the fourth quarter. They had all the momentum throughout. They played so well. They looked so good in the fourth quarter, of course. The first half was pretty putrid, only scoring a field goal, but they just looked so good. They looked so much better than Washington did in that fourth quarter, and yet they came away not able to get the score they needed to get that win.
I feel like a lot of Colts games have started off very slow this year, and I really don't know what the remedy is. I thought it was maybe a switch from Matt Ryan to Sam Ehlinger. That didn't seem to work. Of course, very small sample size for him, as this was his first game under center. So, you know, I think that you give Ehlinger some time underneath his belt and behind center. He might do pretty well this year.
Yeah, and I mean, he looked pretty decent. He didn't throw, 40 times like we've seen Matt Ryan do in the past, but Ehlinger played pretty well. He didn't throw a touchdown, did throw an interception, so it's kind of what the Colts needed him to do, though, right? They don't want him to go out there and throw 40 times and throw 3 interceptions. Matt Ryan, when he was benched, led the league with 9 interceptions at the time early in the season. So it's kind of good to see Ehlinger come in and not throw these picks, be able to come in and just kind of manage the game, let the run game do its thing. Jonathan Taylor only had 76 yards, so it wasn't his best day, but they're going to load the boxes when Ehlinger's in a quarterback. They just need to make sure he can make the plays when it matters, and you need Michael Pittman to catch those footballs. He had himself a good game, but it was just at that last drive they needed him to make that catch.
I would much rather see him have a good game or have a bad game but make the good plays when they're needed than go for 10 catches, 150 yards or whatever, and then lay an egg in crunch time.
It was also tough because that go-ahead field goal that we showed in the highlights earlier was set up because Pittman made a great catch down the field and rolled at the 1 centimeter line. It was that close. They even showed the replay. Rolled over a guy, and the ball was just a hair away from the end zone. They originally called it a touchdown. That's how close it was. Ended up calling it back. The Colts were going to go for 2. If they got that, all of a sudden they have a nice lead here into the fourth quarter, but instead they had kicked the field goal and were only able to go up by 2. So not his fault as much there. It was just a circumstance of the play. But it was that close to Pittman getting the touchdown. It would have been a much different game.
Way different. Speaking of great games, though, man, that Falcons-Panthers game, Nathaniel, what'd you think of that one?
It was such a good game, and now all of a sudden the Falcons, after the win over the Panthers, they're number 1 in the NFC South here. It's been an up and down season for them, but suddenly now They're looking pretty good. They got the stronghold on the division. Of course, just 4-4, so they're not like 8-1 or anything like this, but they just had an impressive year, and they get the win against the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Mariota, I think he's looked pretty good this season. He's kind of stepped into a huge role for the Falcons. Didn't really get much time when he was back in Tennessee, but I think the story of the game, as you see right there, that massive bomb from P.J. Walker to D.J. Moore. What a ridiculous arm on P.J. Walker.
Yeah, he's looked pretty good coming in. I mean, he wasn't the guy that everyone thought would be that number one guy. And we see here, they had a Hail Mary at the end of the play, or at the end of the game, missed this 33-yard attempt, and that was just a heartbreaker. Goes into overtime. The Falcons do what they need to do. They get that field goal. They ended up winning 37-34, but for the Panthers, it's heartbreak because they did everything they needed to do at the end of that game to get in position for that win, and they just missed a 33-yard tip shot. It's a 41-yarder that was made to give the Falcons that win, but it was just such a close game. I feel like these NFC South games are typically very close. It's just, it was unfortunate that they couldn't get the win there.
Well, you mentioned heartbreak. Talking about heartbreak, that Dolphins-Lions game, I'm sure Jared Goff was just a little bit heartbroken from taking the loss to Tua and the Dolphins.
And Detroit's played a lot of pretty close games this year, too. You look at their 1-5, that's not 1-6 now after the loss. That's not quite the story of how their season's gone. They've had a few blowouts where they've lost, but it's been so many close games that come down to the wire. The Seahawks game comes to mind. There's been a few this year, and it's just so unfortunate that this game was that close as well and couldn't pull off the win.
Yeah, I thought Tua looked very good in this one. Tyreek Hill looked amazing. Jalen Waddle with a couple touchdowns, and I love his little Pinkwin Waddle celebration, as you can see right there. But I think that the Dolphins have put together some key pieces to probably making a pretty big playoff run in the playoffs this year.
It was such a close game at the end. The final score there was obviously in the Dolphins' favor, 31-27. And how about Tua? We see Tua Tagovailoa here, steps up in the pocket and launches it downfield. He has arm issues, he has strength issues. I don't think so. Look at that. Tyreek Hill with a great catch as well. He ended the day 29 completions, 382 yards and 3 touchdowns. It seems like he might be the right choice of that draft pick. We saw going into that draft a couple years ago, it was him and it was Herbert after Burrow, of course, was taken. And the Dolphins had to settle for Tua almost, you could say, because Herbert was taking one pick ahead of him at 5. You take Tua at 6. It seems like Tua might he be the better quarterback right now?
I think he definitely is the better quarterback right now. I think Justin Herbert struggled quite a bit these past few weeks.
Because Herbert started his career breaking records as a rookie. And then here it's just been, Tua's the one getting the wins. If you put their stats together, Tua has so many more wins, so much more success. The stats may be a little bit more skewed towards Herbert, but even then, it's a lot closer than what people realize. And Tua's just been playing so well. And it's so crazy that we're having this conversation after that first year, maybe the first 2 years of these guys' career. Suddenly, Mike McDaniel's just flipped a switch here for Tua, and he's playing so well.
No, I think he started scripting the offense to work into his favor. It might have taken him a couple years to figure out what Tua's strengths and weaknesses were, but I think he has, and I think that they're looking very good. I'm kind of turning into a Dolphins fan, that's for sure.
I agree, and I've got some friends that are Dolphins fans, so I hear quite a bit about him and kind of keep my eye on him, but it's just been, I'm starting to lean more into that Miami fanhood as well, and of course it doesn't help when you draft Jalen Waddle and you trade for Tyreek Hill. You can have a lot of great days. I could probably have a decent day at quarterback if I'm throwing to these two guys because that's how good of talent they have on the outside.
You add into that 2 solid running backs, Raheem Mostert, one of them, not being asked to shoulder most of the load on offense, but when he gets his touches, I think he makes the most of them.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch the Dolphins this year for sure. Let's go ahead and step aside when we come back. Monday Night Football. We're going to talk about it next here on Last Call.